Alright, another day, another video. Well, this one, I found out about a news story that happened yesterday about yet another black man being pulled over by the cops because a white woman called the cops on him for being black. So this isn't really a racial issue, this is more of false accusation video. We have so many accusations flying around everywhere in our nation now. With Trump, metoo movement, civil rights, everybody's just throwing accusations out everywhere. And they're purposely trying to confuse the issue about those who are really victims. And people are being thrown in jail for protesting because they're making accusations. And it's got to stop. Yes, it's got to stop. Not accusations that are legitimate. Now, how do we discern? Well, there's this thing called the United States Constitution, which our nation has never once followed it. And as a result, we are in this chaos because we chose not to follow the United States Constitution. We put people into office who did not follow the United States Constitution. And now we have all these problems. So what does the Constitution say? People have the right to petition for a redress of grievances. That's making an accusation. But you got to go to another amendment that says in all criminal trials, the defendant has the right to a defense. Thus a defense lawyer. So this is not complicated. Every accusation must have a trial. Must. And the Constitution says a speedy trial. Our governments today consider a speedy trial one that takes years. Trump's been accused. How long has the investigation been going on? If they had followed the Constitution, Trump would have immediately been taken to the courts to find out if he had fraudulently obtained the presidency. And anyone and everyone involved would go through the courts. And because Trump is so deeply involved with numerous groups on all of this going down, it would have been a long trial, but they would have immediately gone to trial, and it would have been as speedy as possible. And so Mueller wouldn't have been involved, but he would have been the prosecuting attorney, or whoever would have been the prosecuting attorney. And they would be investigating through the course of witnesses, gathering evidence, getting warrants to obtain and seize property. All of it done immediately. Trump would have never have taken office because of the trial that would have had to have taken place immediately upon the accusations. But we don't follow the Constitution. There are no equal rights. Because, either Trump, if he is actually innocent, which he's not, the evidence is overwhelming. He's had his name smeared, but he obtained the presidency, so he's got an advantage over other people. Dr. Ford with Brett Kavanaugh. She made an accusation. It must have gone to trial. Not to the Senate, because this was not a while in office accusation. And people say, well, there's a statute of limitations. You know, the statute of limitations was designed so that people can get away with criminal behavior. If they can silence and kill off anybody who could find accusation against them, you know, they can then get away with their crimes. And then only the serious crimes are able to go without a statute of limitations. But it's that simple. It has to go to trial immediately. You cannot have people guilty by accusation. And both Republicans utilize that thinking for Kavanaugh, and Democrats utilize it for we the people, because I'm willing to bet that everyone in the United States either has been victimized or knows somebody who has. Because nobody's following the Constitution. I've been making accusations that my kids were kidnapped back in 1997. Nobody is allowing me to petition for a redress of grievances. And they further victimize me to keep me silent. I can't even get a lawyer to take my case. Even the discounted poor people lawyers. They won't contact me. They ignore me. They say, oh, we didn't know that you had submitted a claim. Well, tell me and I'll pass it along. You know, that people treat me like a fool. And so I know I'm not the only one. There is no justice. No equal justice. So anybody who is making a claim must take it to trial. It must be heard in the courts. It must be dealt with immediately. None of this human resources crap from businesses. They want to handle it in-house. No, you take it to court. It must be resolved immediately. Businesses, people, government leaders cannot get away with criminal behavior. So accusations must be heard. And so now, what do we do about the white women across the nation who are now thinking that they are obligated to report on black people being black? I saw a black person, oh my God, call the cops. You know, okay, bring the cops in. And when they find out that she was calling for the sake of the person being black, okay, guess what? Those white women need to go to prison because of racial discrimination. It's that simple. When you make a false allegation where there is no crime committed, the accuser must be punished. And not just punished for a lesser crime than the one they're accusing of. The law of Moses, if anybody's even bothered to read it, talks about how a false accuser is to be punished not just equal to what they were accusing and the accused would have been sentenced for, but there's even some places where certain things require a greater compensation above and beyond. And we don't utilize that equal justice system in our nation. We don't follow the Constitution. And so that's how we deal with false accusers. So all this Me Too movement and Republicans going, oh no, we're being persecuted. It's a dark day for men in America. We can't get away with anything now. Oh, poor babies. That's easily solved if the accusers are bearing false witness. You know, that 10 Commandment thing. You know, if they're lying in the courts. And so, okay, Dr. Ford accused Brett Kavanaugh, and then other women came forward accusing Brett Kavanaugh. Those all need to go to trial immediately. His hearing needed to be stopped and dealt with in the courts before he could proceed in the Senate. And the Senate, if they really wanted him still, after all those accusations, then they can wait for the trial to commence and finish. But they didn't want that because Brett Kavanaugh is the only judge ever who would allow Trump to remain in office for the rest of his life and be above the law and not be held accountable despite all the accusations against him. So you see the hypocrisy that's going on in our government? So, yeah. So all this Me Too movement, you know, let's set the record straight. Take it to trial. Was there sexual abuse? Was there rape? Was there drugging to commit rape? And if it's found that the guy is actually innocent and he's being set up, like Brett Kavanaugh, for example, then the punishment for the false accusers is very severe, because they would have then made a false accusation to keep a man out of the Supreme Court position, to keep him from applying for the job. And that's serious. Which means those women, if they were lying and found guilty of lying in the court of law, would then be punished accordingly to the severity of the crime. If all of the accusers of Trump's money laundering, conspiratorial treason against the United States, etc., etc., if those are all false accusations, then all of the false accusers would therefore need the death penalty, because that's what conspiratorial treason requires as a punishment. But we can't drag it on for years, saying, oh, we need to make sure it's right. No, somebody's made accusations. Take it to the courts. Resolve the issue first, before either the accuser's name gets smeared through the mud or Trump's name gets smeared through the mud. Trump should never have taken office. He should have had his case resolved and then proceed if there was found that Russia didn't actually change the votes of women who actually want their kitty cats grabbed. Why would women want their kitty cat grabbed? To be treated like subhuman animals. Nevertheless, 52% of women voted for Trump. Seriously? And we're expected to believe this. So we need to follow the Constitution. Not as a suggestion, as a basic survival mechanism. because people are being destroyed. There's no better word for it. Falsely accused, retaliated against, incarcerated without having a trial, all to keep silent the accusers. We have serious problems, and by choosing a party is not going to solve our problems. Voting Democrat this election is not going to solve our problems. We need to follow the Constitution. So please stop the whole accusations. Take them to court.